folks, welcome back to another episode of Throat Punch Lunch. Episode 4, and we are back at it here again. I've got a lot of good segments lined up for you this week. The contributors are really pumping out some good content, as far as I'm concerned at least. You might disagree with me, but I think they're doing a great job, and I think you do too, because you keep coming back to see them. Now, we did have a little bit of a drop-off of contributors this week because everybody's been ramping up for Gen Con. That is to be expected, so of course, have no fear. I'm sure everybody will be back in full swing after Gen Con is over, but I still do have a solid lineup of contributors, so hey, you're not here for me, you're here for them. Let's get to it.
Hey everyone, this is the Undead Viking here with Amerithrash Treasures on the Throat Punch Lunch. Now I'm going to go ahead and step away from the way I've been doing things the last couple of times where I've been like presenting a game to you and saying, hey, this game's cool, maybe you should own it. And I'm going to actually focus on a game that is coming out in the future. Now, the reason I'm doing this is because I am going to Gen Con here, and as a matter of fact, you're probably watching this while I'm at Gen Con, theoretically, but maybe you're not. Who knows? But anyway, regardless, I'm going to be at Gen Con, and there's a lot of games at Gen Con that I'm excited to check out. I mean, there's the ones that are obvious, like Seafall and Cry Havoc, things that like I'm just jonesing to get my hands on. But there was a game that was recently announced, and that I like heard about, and I know it's like they're saying maybe end of the year, but Fantasy Flight Games has a very weird, peculiar habit of like somehow getting a few copies of those pre-release copies, and they get them to conventions, big conventions like Gen Con, and they have them for sale, or at the very least you're able to demo them. And in all homage to Scott Nicholson, who once said that Defenders of the Realm was if Talisman and Pandemic had gotten together and had a love child, I'm thinking the exact same thing. If Cosmic Encounter and a Game of Thrones got together and had a love child, they would then have a Game of Thrones, The Iron Throne. Now, this is a game that is going to be based in the world of Westeros, and in the world of Westeros, there are the houses that are battling over the Iron Throne, trying to rule the land. And they're going to be taking the mechanisms, or the mechanicisms, as my friend Keith says, of Cosmic Encounter, and they're going to be applying it to that situation. Now, you might be saying, well, who cares? You can just play Cosmic Encounter. Well, the thing is, I love Cosmic Encounter. I really, really do. There's 8 million expansions for it, and I love each and every one. I love all the different races and things that you can be. But there's the problem with Cosmic Encounter, is that, yes, you have access to all these different races that you can be, and all these different powers, and all these different things that you can do, but you never really feel like that's what you are, right? You don't feel like you're in it. You don't feel like you are that alien race vying for control over the cosmos. However, when I play Game of Thrones, the board game, and this is a game that I play maybe 2 or 3 times a year. Why? Because it takes about 6 hours to play. And plus, I really don't want to play it unless I have all 6 people. So, as I've gotten older, we all have lives, we all have jobs, we all have families and kids and parents and what have you. And the thing is, I have the same gaming group, and I've had them since I was 10. So, like 3 decades of gaming group, and to get all of us in one spot for 5 or 6 hours, 6 of us, to play a game, it takes some planning. Now, I love it. I love every single bit of it. I love playing this game. I look forward to it. And that's one of the fun, is like when you plan it and you're like, can look forward to it in the future. But the thing is that because of the fact that I can't have that wonderful feeling of actually being, House Stark, or being, the Greyjoy, or whatever, and quoting the movies, and I shouldn't say movies, but they're kind of like movies, quoting the episodes, quoting the books, remarking upon different theories of ideas that we have, and like complaining about certain things, and what have you. That's part of this wonderful experience of playing this game. But because of the fact that we can't really schedule that amount of time, the fact that I'd be able to play a game in about an hour of this really gets me excited. I'm hoping against hope that I'm going to be able to either, like I said, play a copy, get a picture of a copy, see a copy, or if they have, 100 copies or something for sale, I'm hoping I can knock over somebody's mother so I can grab a copy and bring it home. And trust me, if I get that sucker home, I am going to play the heck out of it, and hopefully I can share my feelings about it with you. So there you go. That's what I want to talk about today. I am super, super, super excited about that game. If you are super excited, please let me know. If there's any Ameritrashy games that you think I should check out at Gen Con, please tell me so I can go check those out. Maybe that's something I can focus on here in the Throat Punch Lunch. And if you see me at the convention, please stop by, say hi, say hello. I'll give you a big old Gen Con hug and give you a big old smile too. All right, well, you take care of yourself, and hopefully I see you there.
It's Mark Zielinski, and welcome back to Countercharge. Today we're going to be checking out Tank on Tank by Lock and Load Publishing. I love this game. It is a great introductory war game, so if you ever wanted to get into war games, it's a great one. If you want to teach your kids about war games, this is an awesome one as well. So why don't we go ahead and check it out, and we'll head over to the close cam. All right, everyone, here we are at the close cam. And you're thinking to yourself, Mark, there's two different maps here. Well, that's because Tank on Tank was published before by Lock and Load Publishing in this smaller, more tabletop version, I guess, or travel version, I should say. It had the worst box I'd ever seen in a game outside of Hasbro. It was awful, and you can see it was very small with these teeny-weeny little counters. This is the brand new Tank on Tank West Front. You can see it's a much larger map. You can also see that they did print the winter scheme on the back of the map. And the other thing that you can see too are the size of the counters. Here's one of the priest counters, and that's it right there. These are beautiful 1-inch counters as opposed to these really teeny, half-inch counters. I mean, these new counters are just fantastic. So, now, as I mentioned before, this game was published previously by Lock and Load, and I'm going to show you a slide that has the counter mix from the original game, and then right after that, we're going to show you the counter mix from the new game. And now, we're also going to take a look at one of these individual counters, and I'm going to point to this here, and then we'll put up another picture that shows you in a little more detail, the different powers of a counter there. But the first number here in red is the range. The second one in blue here is going to be its defense value. And the yellow one right there is its move value. It's really just that simple. Let's go ahead and try a turn here for the Americans. Let's say it's the Americans' turn. So you're going to activate your headquarters Sherman here. He's going to activate all of them, so you can activate both of these units. This Sherman is going to move ahead, and let's say this Sherman's going to go 1 and 2, and he's going to go up on the hill. Now, the effect of being on a hill is it actually extends the range of their cannons by 1 hex, okay? And then that's it. We're not going to activate this priest at all because we can't, because we spent our action points using the headquarters unit. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and shoot, and now in Tank on Tank, when you shoot, you activate all of the units that are going to fire, whether or not they're adjacent or not. So we're going to go ahead and fire at this Panther 4 sitting here, and it is actually in a town, and a town gives you a +1 armor. And as you can see, the armor on this Panzer 4 is a 9. Because it's in town, it's going to increase it to a 10. Our Shermans each have a range of 2 hexes, so 1, 2, and 1, 2. And this priest down here actually has a range of 5 hexes because it's an artillery. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So everybody's in range. So we're going to go ahead, grab some dice over here, and we're going to roll. And you take the die roll there is a 5, and you go ahead and add 1, 2, 3. So that's going to be an 8 total. That is not higher than 10, so this unit is going to be all right. So if we roll them again, we get a 9, 10, 11, 12. That right there is going to be more than the 10, and that would destroy this Panzer unit. And that's how attacking works. All right, everyone, that was Tank on Tank. I love this game, like I said. It is a great beginner game. In this short time on Throat Punch Lunch, I can't go over all the rules. I hope I gave you a flavor for it. I hope you enjoyed the slides with the different things that came in the game. And I hope you give it a try. You can check it out at the Lock and Load Publishing website. Just go ahead and Google Lock and Load Publishing. And until next time, take care.
Hello again, I'm Jeremiah Acevedo, known as the Board Game Renegade on Instagram and YouTube, and welcome to another edition of Taking Out the Trash, a segment about traveling with Amerithrash games. Now, this is my favorite Amerithrash game, Memoir 44, and I like playing it with a lot of its expansions. And as you can tell, this really isn't a travel-friendly game. There's a lot of stuff here, especially if you have the expansions. There are a lot of miniatures, cardboard bits, boards, cards, and other components that don't make it really efficient for travel. And until recently, I used to play it a lot at home because I didn't take it with me because of the inconvenience. However, recently I discovered a travel solution that would help me take this places and help me take other big games places. So let me show you what it is and we'll discuss it a bit. This is a travel solution that I mentioned in my intro. It's called the BitBox Mobile. It was sent to me to review on my YouTube channel, and I felt like it fit the theme of taking out the trash here on Throat Punch Lunch very well, that I wanted to show it because it is a good travel solution for larger games. Now, I was not compensated for previewing this or advertising this. This is not a paid advertisement, so keep that in mind. Now let me show you exactly what the BitBox Mobile is and why I like it for traveling with larger games. Within that bigger box, there are smaller boxes to keep everything organized in. When traveling with Memoir 44, I'm going to put the cards into this small box here. All of the cards fit in here standing upright. Most of these cards are sleeved, and the little boxes that come inside close so that things don't spread all over the place. And that's why I like this as a travel solution. Like I mentioned, I travel a lot with games and I don't have a car. I walk with them, so it's cool to have everything in separate little boxes. In this medium-sized box, all of the tiles from the expansions fit, all of the cardboard tiles, terrain pieces and such, and the smaller little cardboard chits fit in there also. So it's pretty cool. It all closes up pretty well so it doesn't go all over the place. Now here is the beef of Memoir 44, and it's all of the miniatures. Here in this side here have the dice and some more cardboard chits and everything, some of the smaller chits. But right here, all of the miniatures from all of the expansions that I have fit into these little different sections here, and it's pretty cool. They're not that tight, they're just here lightly in here, so you don't have to worry about the little guns or any bits breaking. It fits nicely into this compartment and I really like it. I don't even think I'm going to take my Memoir 44 out of this box, to be honest. And then here we have this larger box kind of sleeve thing, and this is to put boards inside of. So it's pretty cool. Right here I have one of my breakthrough maps, which is a bigger map. It fits in there nicely. And right here is the core box or the base games map. And I also have in here the rule book for the breakthrough scenarios and the Memoir 44 scenario and some other bits that didn't fit in any of the other smaller compartments. When everything is organized into the smaller boxes, it is time to put them into the larger box. And the big box that I had all the miniatures in fits into one of these sleeves here. And I could put the medium-sized box with all of the cardboard components here. The smaller box with all of the cards fit nicely in there. And that sleeve thing with the boards fit in there. And then the box closes just like this. And then it has a little handle so you can take it with you where you go. And it is a nice box to take games with you when you're traveling. This has been Taking Out the Trash, and until next time, peace out.
You have your thematic game sitting on the table. All the players are ready to enter new worlds or take on new roles. But you would like to enhance this experience even more. Well, you can. And one way is through music and sound effects, which I cover in this installment of Face Up, Center of the Table. What's that? Listening to music or atmospheric sounds as you play a game can really help pull you into that theme even more. For example, in my last installment, I talked about thematic games that are based on intellectual property. Well, many of those IPs have memorable and iconic soundtracks. For example, Game of Thrones, Lord of the Rings, Battlestar Galactica, Star Wars, and Firefly. Stop, I just can't. If you watched any of those movies or TV shows, then just hearing that music will bring up memories of characters, scenes, locations, and story elements. Pair that with playing in a game that is in the actual setting, and it really just brings the theme to life. But what if the theme you're playing doesn't have a TV or movie soundtrack? What if it's based on like a book or a comic book? Well then, improvise. For example, when we play anything in the Lovecraftian universe, such as Arkham Horror or Eldritch Horror, we always have 20s jazz playing. The art contains characters and locations from that decade, so listening to that era's music just really helps draw you in. Or, if you're playing a Viking-themed game like Blood Rage, you can listen to Norwegian metal bands. Okay, that's not exactly music at that era, but I know designer Eric Lang would approve. Don't believe me? In addition to music, you can also use sound effects. For example, if you're playing in an outdoor setting, you could have sounds of animals, wind, or storms. If you're in outer space, you could listen to the low rumble of the engines on your spacecraft. Or if you're in the middle of an epic combat on the battlefield, you can... No. 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 If that's the best you got, okay. Luckily, there are software apps that were created to help construct a sonic soundscape for your tabletop adventure. One is Tabletop Audio at tabletopaudio.com. They have their sound library broken up into genres such as fantasy, sci-fi, historical, modern, nature, and horror. Also, there is Sirenscape at Sirenscape.com, where you can take their fantasy, sci-fi, and board game sound sets and create your own custom campaign. With music, sound effects, and very little effort, you can add an oral element to your thematic board games that will really help enrich your gameplay experience. In upcoming segments, I'll look at more ways to promote immersion into games by titillating some of your other senses. So have you used music or sounds in your board games? If so, how? Let me know in the comments. Are you done?
Oh yeah.
What's going on? It's Roy Candy from Epic Gaming Night, and this is Roll with the Punches, where we talk about randomness in games and how to mitigate luck into your favor. I figured since this is Throat Punch Lunch, I would take a look at the different combat mechanisms in several different games. So we're going to start off with one game that actually has very little luck in it. It's more about getting into your opponent's head and figuring out how they're going to play and where they're going to play different things. And that game is Game of Thrones 2nd Edition. In Game of Thrones, combat is all about the numbers. You're going to be placing out different order tokens to march in and invade different areas. You're going to look at the different numbers on each side. Different units have different values. So in this situation, the Lannisters are attacking the Baratheons. Both sides have 5 strength worth of guys because there's defense tokens you can place and support tokens you can place so that adjacent areas can help out. There's also different ways to upgrade your muster and defenses. Figuring out where to place these tokens and get into your opponent's head is very important for combat in this game. You're also going to be playing house cards, which are going to add to your value of combat. So each player is going to secretly select one of these. So this Stannis Baratheon will give you 4 attack and a really cool special ability if you're lower on the Iron Throne track, because he really wants to get the Iron Throne. Very thematic, but you can only play these once during the game. So once you play your Stannis Baratheon, you'll get it, it'll be gone, and you have to play through all the rest of your cards, then you'll get it back. And sometimes there's other situations that allow you to get your house cards back, but for the most part, there's not a ton of combat necessarily in the game depending on who you're up against, so you might not get any of your house cards back. So you have to plan very strategically when you're going to use your good ones, when you're going to use your other ones. There's lots of cool, crazy special abilities on these cards too. Like Tyrion Lannister will actually make your opponent discard their current house card and select another one. And if they don't have another one in their hand, if their hand's about to be empty, then they have to immediately lose the battle. If you win a combat, your opponents are going to retreat. Unless there are swords on the winner's side, then they have to destroy units equal to the number of swords. But there are also castles which can help you defend against the swords so that you can retreat your units instead of having them die. combat, whoever has the highest number in combat is going to win, and the opponent has to retreat. And ties are determined by who's higher on the king court track, in the fiefdom track, I mean. And the fiefdom track, you also get this cool sword that you can flip over for a +1 bonus. The combat numbers are normally pretty low, so you have to strategically figure out how to move your units in the specific areas to be able to get the edge on your opponent, and maybe work out some alliances, because supports can be helped out in any battle that you're adjacent to, so you can help your enemies fight over different areas too. It's all about getting into your opponent's head and try to figure out how to set yourself up best to win the combat. Combat in Game of Thrones is definitely very deterministic, and figuring out the odds of what your opponent's going to play depends on how the board is set up, and trying to get into their head, figuring out if they're going to waste their high house cards now, or if they're going to use them on a later, more important battle, trying to figure out exactly where you need to strike and when you need to use which cards, and how the special abilities can help you out in different situations. But yeah, this has been Roll with the Punches. Make sure to let me know in the comments what your favorite combat mechanism is. There's tons of amazing ways that people have created conflicts in games, and some of them are awesome. So make sure to hit us up, and we'll see you guys next time.
Hi guys, it's Breach18 here, and we are here for another segment of Cafe Chat. I know, I'm really sorry, I've kind of cheated. We're not technically at a gaming cafe, but nevertheless, we are here where gaming takes place. I'm joined by Gary. Hi. You right? Would you like to tell us about this game group?
Yes, it hasn't got a name. Well, that's not quite right. It's the Nottingham Board and Miniature Games Club yet to be named.
Right.
So if anybody ever wants to find it on Facebook, that's how you find it.
Okay.
But essentially, it started as me wanting to get a handful of people together and just play the odd game every now and again, and it kind of mushroomed from there. So now we've got on average about 20 people turning up. Sometimes it's been up as far as 40, which was just chaos, but now we're running weekly. It tends to stay around the kind of 20 player mark, and we play everything.
Okay, cool. And how can people get involved if they're in the Nottingham area?
If they're in the Nottingham area, or even in the East Midlands, or they're just visiting Nottingham, say they're coming up for something else gaming related and they want to come to another destination, then we're here. We're here either a Tuesday or Wednesday every week.
And where's here, just for the people who
It's
don't
the
know?
Ned Ludd on Friar Lane. It's
Right.
dead easy to find. It's next to Forbidden Planet and across the road from Games Workshop,
Okay, I think that's pretty accurate. Okay.
and just down from the castle
Right.
and up from the Market Square.
Okay, right. So that is where we are at the moment. The question we're going to be asking this week is, what is your favourite Amerithrash game and why?
Talisman is one, apparently. It's a game I like a lot. I know the genre is a lot of luck based, but with Talisman, I find you can control it. It's what, as the game goes on, you can really think about where you want to go, what sort of moves you want to plan ahead. You can get shafted at the beginning of the game, but that's just the way it happens. Sometimes you just got to roll your luck and keep going. Eventually, normally the game will sort of even out, and it will get down to sort
so
of
that's
skill.
quite typical of an Amerithrash game. It's a lot of luck behind it,
yeah.
with a lot of theme.
Yeah.
So
Probably I'd say Hero Quest. I don't play an awful lot of them these days, but Hero Quest was what got me into board games when I was younger.
Yeah.
I mean, the nice thing was it was an MB game, it was advertised on TV, kids could pick it up really quickly. It was just a fun game to play with your mates.
Space Hulk.
Space Hulk, okay. So that's kind of like another sort of heavy miniatures-based board game, really.
It was, yes.
Yeah. So, and they've done recent new editions of it.
They have, but it never quite works on the original. The original from Honeywell was simple, elegant. You could pick it up, play a game in an hour, and argue the merry hell out with each other, and still have a good laugh.
Yeah.
And that was part of the fun of it. It was enjoyable. It was engaging.
Okay. And you feel like that's been taken away in the newer editions?
I think it's more mechanics over kind of style. Well, mechanics and style over anything else. It's look what we can do as a game designer, not look what I can do to make a really good game.
Yeah.
Which I think is a problem with. It becomes more about the design than it becomes about the games.
Yeah.
So at the moment, flavour of the month is definitely Ninja All Stars.
Okay.
Absolutely love it. Really, really simple mechanics. ridiculous amounts of lucky dice rolls, and the miniatures are just beautiful, absolutely beautiful.
I'm more of a strategic board games player, but a realisation that I'm a big fan of Small Worlds, of all its different versions. It's a game that constantly has a random element to it, so it's a nice simple game to start with at the beginning of the night when you've got friends coming around for a board game.
Yeah, I actually really like Small World. Don't want to go into the fact that I absolutely got my butt kicked by a certain Mr. Healey. We won't talk about that because that'll just make his ego even bigger, but I do like it.
I'd have to say a joint piece between King of New York and King of Tokyo.
Right, yeah, excellent games. It's family favourites for my family in particular.
At the end of the day, they're basically both just glorified Yahtzee, which speaks volumes of the random element. The theming is really nice. I've always been a fan of like the Japanese giant monster films and things like that.
I think I have to go for King of Tokyo, King of New York.
Yeah?
Just because big monsters.
Big monsters.
Big city.
So there we have it, another segment of Cafe Chat. The thing I found so interesting this week is that a lot of people, when I actually asked them the question, some of the answers were that they just didn't like Amerithrash games until we actually started to break it down as to what actually makes an Amerithrash game. They didn't realise, so they started going, actually, yeah, I like this game which fits into that category. So I found that really interesting. So believe it or not, although this is a term used quite heavily, there are board gamers out there that, you know, don't come across these terms, and it's quite nice to actually break it down for them as to what kind of games fit into that category and how you would describe those games. So we got some really interesting answers from that. A lot of older style games from GW and MB Milton Bradley games, going all the way up to more modern games such as King of Tokyo, which is really popular. So thank you guys for watching. If you have any questions, also, what is your favourite Amerithrash game and why? Leave them in the comments below. And until next time, enjoy the rest of your lunch.
Hey folks, welcome back to another Accessorize segment for Throat Punch Lunch. As I promised last episode, I'm going to be showing you how to put together one of the modules from the modular workstation that I found at BrokenTableHobbies.com or Hobby Zone, the Hobby Zone website. So hang on to your hats. I'm going to show you everything. It's going to be sped up so that I can get the entire thing in there, and let's get down to the table. All right, so before we actually get to speeding up the video, we're going to, I'm just going to show you the stuff that I'm using. I'm using some Elmer's wood glue, really cheap to buy, not expensive at all. And then a hammer that I just have from my toolbox. And then just a nasty old ratty, crunchy rag that I use to wipe my fingers off and the different paint, the glue and that type of stuff. And then of course I have this guy. So that is the corner shelf section. of the modular workstation that I put together today. And really what you should probably do is allow for, it to dry overnight. The glue actually tells you that overnight drying, it allows it to bond and set to its maximum effect, and that's what I'll probably do. But just to show you now with these magnets on the top, I can click this in like so, and then this can actually move into my corner section like that, so that it is now part of, I've got this huge section right here. Maybe let me disconnect this right here so that you can make me see it a little bit better. Kind of an inside section there where you can hold stuff on this shelf, maybe have work in projects here, but there is also another work in project, a work in process module that I'll show you another time. So as you can see, the putting together of the actual stations, the modules, is not very difficult at all. It just takes a little bit of patience and just a couple of tools, a bottle of wood glue, a hammer, and everything else you need is really inside the boxes. So it's actually a pretty cool thing. You don't have to have a wooden thumb, or is that what they call it? I know they call it a green thumb for gardening, but who knows? You don't have to have a master's degree in carpentry in order to take care of these things. They are very simple to put together, and they are very efficient with organizing your workstation. So we'll have a little bit more next time on Accessorize. See you later.
Throat Punchies, I'm Forrest from Bauer's Game Corner, and I'm back again for 3 reasons where I spotlight a game outside the top 1,000 on Board Game Geek that I think you might want to check out. This week I have a special Gen Con episode where I'm actually going to be spotlighting 3 games being released at Gen Con 2016 that I've already reviewed and really enjoy, but I think they might fly under the radar, and I don't want to see that happen. Just a forewarning, I'm not going to talk about any of the bigger name titles that are coming out at Gen Con that I already know are great, so you can get out of here, games, but I'm going to be talking about some smaller games. First game I'm going to talk about is Flag Dash from Peacekeeper Games. This is for 2 to 4 players, about 30 minutes to play, and this is a capture the flag team game. We're going to split up into 2 teams. You're going to have your own character to control that's going to have a cool special ability. You're going to be controlling a goalie, and this game has an insane amount of tension, a lot of variability, and it is just a blast and a half to play. Really recommend Flag Dash from Peacekeeper Games. The next game I'm going to talk about is Grimslinger Games from Greenbrier Games. And put simply, I don't know if I've ever seen a box with more game in it than this tiny game has. It has a 2 to 6 player duel mode, which is really cool, where you're going to be slinging spells at each other that is incredibly variable. And then it also has a 1 to 4 player solo and cooperative adventure that you can go on that's Legacy-esque, as you're going to be playing it over numerous game sessions, slowly leveling up your character. Both of them were really well done. It has a surprising amount of humor in the solo and cooperative version of the game. One I definitely recommend checking out is Grimslingers. The final game I'm going to be talking about is The Networks from Formal Ferret Games. This one is a game where you're going to be running a TV studio, and you're going to be putting on different shows and having different actors and actresses, and it's a really cool, simple engine building game, but it's got a lot of bite to it, surprisingly. It's easy to learn, easy to teach, has great artwork, a cool theme, and I think it's going to be one that a lot of people are going to be smitten with. That's The Networks from Formal Ferret Games, and those were 3 games coming out at Gen Con that I really don't want to see fly under the radar, so be sure to check them out if you were at Gen Con. Also, if you were at Gen Con, be sure to say hi to me and come get a badge flag. And as always, back to more throat punchy goodness.
Hey everyone, this is Tim Jeanette the Meadow Meeple, and this is the Miniature Breakdown. So welcome back. We're going to get right into it and go over 2 more factions of the Iron Kingdoms and War Machine. Basically, we have Khador. Khador are what I call the powerhouse faction of Iron Kingdoms. They are basically the football players, so to speak. They are super strong. They've got tons of health. They take tons of damage. They dish out tons of damage, but they're really slow. They kind of lumber across the field. Now, they do got some spells that help them out with that as well, but they are pretty much a slower faction. They're extremely powerful in melee Melee, but they kind of have a weak range game, so to speak. I mean, they got some good range things here and there, but some of it's just a bunch of area effects, cannons and stuff that's highly inaccurate, but they can lay down tons of those. Pretty cool stuff. They have a lot of heavy war jacks. They pretty much only have heavy war jacks. They have 0 light jacks. These big guys here is all they have. There's light and heavy jacks, so they've got all the heavy ones. Anyway, normally when you pick Khador, you're going to have 1 or 2 heavy jacks, but you're going to run a lot of infantry. That's because they have tons of infantry. They get them at a really good price as cost is concerned, and they do really well as far as melee. And so, really, really fun faction to play. Some of my favorites, which I don't own the models for because I don't really play this faction that much, are the Doom Reavers. The Doom Reavers are basically convicts that they've attached Fellblades to them. They're ancient Orgoth weapons, and they just make them go crazy, and it makes them a murderous machine, so they just run across the battlefield. They can even kill each other. Pretty funny. Well, I mean, I guess not funny, but you know what I'm saying. Kaezi Assassins are basically the rogues of the game. They are my favorite unit just because they're kind of like ninja. They have rogues. They got backstab. And then Karchev the Terrible, he's a guy inside of a jacksuit. He's massive. Really, really crazy to play against. Probably one of my favorite warcasters to go up against. So next we have Krix. Krix are pretty much the evil faction of the game. And when I say evil, it's because they have tons of necromancy. They have spells that just bring things back to life. They have thralls, which are basically zombies. They got all kinds of stuff like that. On top of that, they've got tons of powerful spells. They've got lots of debuffs. They can debuff they kind of go against the grain as far as rules are concerned because they do their own thing and they circumvent a lot of the restraints that other factions have. Now, they are a really fragile faction, so it's really hard to play them unless you know the intricacies of them as well, and how their spells synergize and kind of pulling off these risky combos and things like that. So if you're a player that likes that, this is the faction you want to check out. They have what's called corrosion. They just slap it on everything and it ends up taking damage over time. Really, really annoying to fight against. They have a lot of weaker infantry, but they are really fast and deadly. And on top of that, they have pirates. There are pirate mercenaries, but they do have they have a lot of pirates in their faction, basically. Let me show you some of the models. Some of these aren't painted. I haven't got around to it, but one of my favorite models or units in the game are the Statistics Raiders. And they're basically a female grand band of pirates that run around and plunder and steal. They've got these whips. What's cool about these whips is they hit things and warjacks and the warcaster actually suffers the damage. We've got Terminus. He is just hunking metal here. Really, really crazy warcaster. I just love the model. And finally, the Deathjack. The Deathjack just roams the land like an urban legend, destroying things, and but he actually is real. So anyway, next episode, we're going to take a look at the final faction and some mercenaries. And until next time, you can contact me below if you feel like it. But until next time, keep on rocking and rolling dice.
Hey again everyone, Georgie here from Beards and Board Games, and I'm back with another episode of The Past, the Present and the Future. And this time it's the future, and the game that I've chosen is Dark Souls.
Dark Souls is a strategic combat-based game from 1 to 4 players. The whole idea of the game is that a group of marauders and adventurers will troll through the dungeon looking for treasures, beating up monsters, and fighting some pretty terrifying looking miniatures. It comes with a variety of different game boards that I believe are going to be double-sided, and I can't remember if I mentioned before, are the miniatures sick or what? Now, the version of it I played only had a few adventurers. It was very prototype, but it was still a real fun experience, and the game really, really beat us down. I really enjoyed the mechanics of it, and the whole amount of stuff that you're getting in the box if you back the Kickstarter, and I believe you can still late pledge it now, is just intense. There's so much of it.
With it being based on a video game that's renowned for being one of the most difficult video games that's ever been played, then you expect the board game to be hard. And from the 2 times that I played it and the 3 times that I've seen other people play it, they all lost to this giant monster thing. And the whole idea of it being that difficult, but at the same time being kind of storyline driven, but still like really hack and slash, is a real interest to me. And I'm kind of disappointed that I didn't back it, even though I know loads of other people that did, so I'll definitely get to play it. So I am really looking forward to it. Anyway, that's this segment of the past, the present, and the future complete with this 3 episodes, and we'll be starting our next 3 next time.
Hi, welcome to the Miniatures World. Like last time I said, we are going to learn how to pour and make our own miniatures. Now, your basic molds are made out of a silicone, which is very, very durable. And a lot of them are one-part molds. But when you're dealing with figures sometimes, because of the way they're structured and the way they have to be poured, remember, we're not machines. We don't have a machine that'll inject the ink. We actually have to pour it. So we have to make sure that we have molds such as this 2-part mold where there are actual orifices where we can pour it into. And sometimes that's not the easiest thing when you have a resin that's going to dry in about 90 seconds. So you want to make sure that your mold is very durable and easy access to pour. Now, today we're going to be doing a 1-part mold. So for this exercise, we're going to be doing some meeples and a dungeon tile. Now this is a dungeon that I'm building. I'm building an 8-foot dungeon. And what I did is I went down to Home Depot and just went through the tile section looking for things that I can glue together and start building my dungeon with. And as you can see, I found some with some good indentures and things like that to give that feel that once we paint it, it really looked like a real dungeon. And make my own dungeon. So let's go down to the table and take a look on how we build some of these. Now for this particular mold, what I did is I took a tile and I took some Legos and built a mold around my miniature. So for instance, I would lay my miniature down and build my Lego thing around there so I don't use as much of the actual silicone, because actually it's very expensive, and the less you use, the more you have for the next thing that you want to mold. So I like to put some clay on the bottom, okay, and be able to push in a little bit. By pushing in a little bit, it sets it and it keeps it in that spot. And the same thing with the meeple. I want to make sure that I have a good flat spot and enough room. I don't want to push it in too far, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to lose some of the meeple if I do that. So I just wanted to sit in there and stick enough. And notice how I have a good roundabout edge around the whole container. What that does is the silicone will be all the way around, and I'm using every bit of space that I can. So when I pour, I won't waste any space or waste any resin either. Making sure that I keep everything nice and tight and space enough to pour all in one shot. So let's finish this up and get on out of here. So the whole point of today is making it in your mind where you can learn and formulate and start taking some of these containers for the next 2 weeks and start playing around and get an idea. Take a little clay, it's 99 cents, and put it in different containers, and think about the angles that you want to keep with your particular with your models, so to find an ease to pour. It's always important to make sure that everything pours perfectly, because you don't want air bubbles and things like that. The reason we didn't stand up the meeples is because there's a little spot there, and if we poured from the top, what would happen is we would lose this whole space, because actually the silicone would come up to a certain point here, and then the clay would be underneath. But when we take that out, we would lose this whole spot. We wouldn't have that indenture, so we would end up with a flat spot. That's why we lay them sideways, so we can get every bit of this meeple. And then 2 weeks from now, we're going to pour our silicone, we're going to let it dry, and then we're going to actually pour our miniatures, and you're going to see firsthand how we do it all. But I can't stress enough that half the battle is setting up your mold and making sure that your mold has an ease to work with. Until next time, I'm Rob Warren. Have a great couple of weeks. We'll see you soon.
And so that is Throat Punch Lunch episode 4 for you. We'll be back in 2 weeks with episode 5. I'm already looking forward to what my contributors come up with next. I do want to give a huge shout out to all of my contributors because they are the reason that's making this show great, not me. I'm just compiling everything and putting it together. They're the ones doing the work, hard work on the front end. So please feel free to absolutely crowd the comment section, thanking them for what they're doing because I just really enjoy everything that they do. So that is Throat Punch Lunch for this week. If you are at Gen Con, because that's where I am right now as this has come live on Wednesday. I'm at Gen Con. If you see me, feel free to stop by. I'd love to shake your hand and just talk to you for a little bit. Please do that. We're at booth, I think 2821 or something like that. We're in the new part of the expansion of the hall, the main exhibit hall. So come look us up. We'd love to meet you. And anyway, until then, we'll see you on the flip side.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at DicetowerNetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.